record here. Welcome everyone to the Culture First Community, our global chapter event, Why Mental Health is a Critical Business Conversation all year round. So excited to have you joining us here for the next hour together. We picked some belonging badges already, but our purpose for today is to highlight the importance of sustaining mental health conversations in the workplace throughout the year. Our goal is for you to gain practical strategies for integrating these crucial conversations into your organizational culture, empowering leaders and HR professionals to prioritize mental health continuously. As some of you may know that maybe based in the States, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So hoping to keep this momentum going all year round. Today's agenda, we're going to do a little check-in with one another. We're going to have a fireside chat with our speaker today, Melissa Doman. I will I'll formally introduce her amazing background just shortly. We'll have an open Q&A session with her, a chance for you to ask any questions you may have. And then we'll have some closing announcements and get out of here. It's going to be a quick hour. So if I haven't met you, my name's Jessie Jacob. I am a senior community manager here at CultureAmp running our Culture First Chapters program. We now have 100 chapters around the world with 150 volunteer chapter leads who are hosting events about the future of work, whether that's mental health or diversity, equity, and inclusion, or returning to the office, you name it, we're talking about it. Many of our chapter leads are on here today. So shout out to, I know Sonia and Hannah and Stephanie, I saw you all here. And my job is to support them with running their local communities. So let's get into a little check-in. You can head over to slido.com and enter in this QR code, or you can scan this QR code. And then I'm going to stop sharing and close this. Great. And I'm going to pull this up one more time so you can have it. Don't worry. All right. Our first check-in question for you today is just like, what's your energy level? How are you doing? Red's like, I'm here, and that's a win in and of itself. Yellow's like, I'm okay, but I could be better. Green's like, I'm feeling good, ready to go. Let's do this. Again, no judgment. We are wanting you to just show up however you are here today. All right. Fair amount of yellows and greens. Love it. Thank you for the folks who are red, who are being honest about your energy level. I appreciate you, and I'm glad you're here. Awesome. So good. All right. Thank you all for voting on that poll. It's so important that we're not always going to be green. So thank you to the folks who are owning that. All right. Leveling up from our energy level of red, yellow, or green. What's one word to describe how you're feeling today? Again, zero judgment. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you are excited. Whatever it is. Yeah, there we go. Tired. Frustrated. Oh, thank you for the person owning that. We're frustrated and we're tired. Mentally exhausted, distracted, bored, crampy. Thank you for owning this. This is powerful stuff. We got focus and we have distracted all in the same room. I'm loving it. Overwhelmed. Thank you. Give it a couple more seconds. Anxious. Thank you. Woo. Honoring that. Thank you so much. Just the power of a simple check-in of just like, we are all over the spectrum of emotions here. So thank you so much. All right. My third question, why do you attend today's session? What are you hoping to get out of this? Why are you here? Learn something new. Love it. Gain perspective. Looking for inspo. Yes, tools. Yeah, we spend a lot of time. Required but curious. Important topic. Strategies to apply at work. Great. Make mental health less taboo. I mean, we've made progress, but by golly, it seems like we have a lot more work to do. Supporting managers to support their employees. We got you. Finding community, love, or we got you. Mental health. Yes, this is so good. Awesome. All right. Gain tools, gain resources, find community. We're doing it, squad. All right. So if this is your first time to the Culture First community, a quick refresher on who we are. We are a group of people around the world united in the shared belief that a better world of work is possible. And I would go one step further and say, by golly, we are willing to do something about it. We have 5 core principles that this is the glue that holds us all together. And this is how we ask you to show up today. So foster belonging and acceptance, just letting people be seen and valued and appreciated for just being them and showing up. So thank you all for showing up and being here today and already bringing the vulnerability with our check-in. I appreciate you. Having the willingness to reflect and grow. We're transforming the future of work and our organizations, but that starts with us being the change we want to see in the world. And that also bringing it back to the topic of today, taking care of ourselves and our own mental health to be able to continue to show up at work and do this important work together. Have the courage to be vulnerable. You all are already embodying this with check-ins and belonging badges, so thank you. Putting learning into action. We hope that you have these strategies and tools to be able to put them into the way that you live, into the way that you work. And then the last principle is connection inside, business outside. So today we ask you to connect on the inside first as a human being. And if that leads to us all somehow doing business later, that's cool. But like hardcore sales is not the primary purpose of the gathering. So introducing you to our speaker today. I'm so excited to have Melissa here with us. She and I actually met in a hallway at Transform, a conference back in March, and I love that our meet cute led to this awesome gathering together. And so excited to amplify her voice and to learn from her wisdom. Melissa is an organizational psychologist, a formal clinical mental health therapist, and she's the author of Yes, You Can Talk About Mental Health at Work, and Here's How to Really Do It Well. She's worked with companies across industries around the globe, clients like Google, Dow Jones, the Orlando City Soccer Club, Microsoft, Salesforce, Estee Lauder, some giant brands. She's done some amazing work. She's spoken at South by Southwest. She's been featured as a subject matter expert on CNN, Vogue, NPR, the BBC, CNNBC, LinkedIn's top 2022 top 10 voices on mental health. Having lived abroad in South Korea, England, Australia, and traveled to over 45 plus countries, she calls upon her global experience to inform how she works with companies around the world. And she has one core goal, which is to equip companies, individuals, and leaders to have constructive conversations about mental health, team dynamics, and communication in the workplace. So her book and her work aims to do just that. I'm so excited to have her here. This is a really, obviously, mental health is an incredibly important conversation for our community. Someone even mentioned in the chat about like making this less taboo. We have still a lot more work to do with this conversation. There are layoffs happening. There are wars happening. People are grieving, including myself. Like our mental health is going to continuously be an important conversation for the future of work. So excited to have this convo with you, Melissa. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. You and I talked about that I've been following Culture Amp for years, and that the first time I actually connected to someone at Culture Amp was in England, of all places. And so to be able to now connect with someone else on this side of the pond about it, it was like 6 years in the making. So I was really looking forward to this, and I appreciate everybody making the time. And especially when I saw the kind of words popping up, feeling distracted, feeling frustrated. I really hope you see this time with myself and Jessie as a temporary reprieve from all of that. And this is, space that you can be whatever you need to be. It's expletive friendly. So just come as you are. And my only goal for today is you learn something new and you try something new and you have a little fun while we do it. That's my only goal for today. So I hope that sounds like a good use of your time.
I love it so much. All right, so I'm gonna spotlight us for this fireside chat portion. And then obviously please add some questions in the chat if you would like, and then we'll make sure we get to those after the kind of the core questions. But okay, Melissa, to kind of prime and kick off this conversation, wanting to make sure we get on the same page about language and definitions and meanings. So things so that things aren't used interchangeably. Can you help us set the stage with like definitions of mental health versus stress, mental illness, and like why it's important for us to kind of get those clear?
I'm going to start off with a itty bitty brief story to illustrate the point. So when I was living in the UK with my husband, and I actually started subspecializing in mental health at work in the UK, because I used to do clinical work and I switched to straight org psych, and then I subspecialized in that area while over there. And it just struck me, having gone from the back end to the front end, having been former therapist and now doing workplace mental health, that there is such an interchangeable usage of these terms, even though it really shouldn't happen. So I was giving a talk in London, and this guy came up to me afterward. We are talking about some of the stuff I said. He leaned in and whispered and said, "I have mental health." And I said, "We all do. Are you trying to say you have a mental illness?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "You don't have to whisper about either." So I thought it was so interesting that the whispering, but just whispering, the interchangeability of it. So mental health is something we all have. Animals have it. It's just the health baseline of this organ. It's our baseline social, emotional, and cognitive functioning. Just a quick type into the chat who's seen Inside Out. And we know that the sequel's coming in 2 weeks, and I am just like exploding with sparkles with excitement. So these are all the emotions we come pre-programmed with out of the box to let us know how to respond to situations. Do we need help? Is something wrong, etc. If you look at the feeling wheel from Dr. Gloria Wilcox, Willcox, you will see that there are dozens and dozens of emotions pre-packaged out of the box that we have that are positive, neutral, negative, none of which are clinical. Now, if you look at mental illness, which is a diagnosable behavioral health condition that impacts thinking, emotions, cognition, social relationships, and overall functioning, there are over 300 types of mental illness that currently exist. Most people who have a diagnosed mental illness, you would never know unless you ask them, because most people are really high functioning. They also happen to have a diagnosed mental illness. Now, when you look at stress, there are people that will think that chronic stress is a form of mental illness. It's really not. And stress itself is quite neutral. It's when you encounter a stimulus that requires adjustment or response. So you have good stress and bad stress, and too much of either can negatively impact your general mental health or exacerbate if you have a mental health condition. Now, examples of those different types of stress. Good stress. I am a business owner, and so there's good stress with that. I became a homeowner a couple years ago. They said it would be fun, and I was like, look at this damn money pit. Bad stress. I used to have managers that I would describe as emotionally constipated, uh, and we're not great. But all that to say, I would look at it kind of like a Venn diagram. You have mental health, you have mental illness, the intersection, you have stress. And so if we're going to talk about these topics, especially in the workplace, meanings matter.
Ooh, that I am taking notes over here, and that was super helpful for me. So thank you. Um, even just the aha moment of even too much good stress can be a bad thing. It was like, oh, and
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I love
Oh
this. Okay.
yes.
So wait, why is mental health a critical business conversation, not just some optional wellness initiative?
I think the question for me is how could it not be? And so if I'm being super brass tacks about it, it is really tough out there and it can be really tough in here. So for the people that we spend the most time with each week, generally speaking, why not work on just normalizing those conversations and going a step further, teaching people
Oh no, I don't know if I went frozen or if Melissa went.
active fight because of the 8 billion people on the planet. There are lots of people, certain cultures, certain places that, still don't acknowledge that this is something that needs to be talked about. And so the way I tend to look at it is for the people that you spend the most time with each week, it's one thing to create psychological safety and comfort. It's another thing to teach people the skills of how to actually do it. And so, yes, there have been all these cases, the ROI case, the human case, the wellness case, all these cases have been made. And so the way I look at it is learning how to talk about mental health at work is actually about critical professional development and re-educating people about what we're actually talking about, not what they think we're talking about, because those are different. And
Mm,
also teaching people how to actually have the skills to enable the conversations to occur, especially in an increasingly hostile and inflamed world.
yeah. I feel like even before the pandemic, we were talking about VUCA, and I was like, look at us. That was
It's
before.
like VUCA on steroids. No.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, pick a direction. Which dumpster fire would you like to look at?
That's for real.
Yeah.
Uh, I do appreciate that it's this idea of um things need to be normalized within just like how
Yeah.
we do things, not just like some one-off initiative and things like
No,
that. I would
no.
make the same argument for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Like a lot of that work should not just be that's everything we do should be through the lens of mental health and through the lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's not just like a one-off thing.
I completely agree. And I know that, we'll talk about some of this shortly, but having a Wellness Wednesday or something like that, while very well intended, does not take individual experience into account at all. So, what I mean by that is when, yes, it's a nice message. We all have mental health, which is medically true, but that doesn't take into account how people are shaped about how they look at this topic, how they experience this topic. You can't ask people to come to this conversation table without looking at what they bring to the table.
Yeah, which ties me to the next thing that I wanted to ask you around like in many ways that's checking a box, right? It's like we had a wellness Wednesday. So like how do you delineate or differentiate between
Yeah.
what is something that's like checking a box to provide, mental health care benefits
Hmm.
versus how do you creating an actual culture that incorporates mental health into like how an organization
Yeah.
does things?
So the first thing I want to say is a lot of companies, they're just doing what they can when they can with what they have.
Mhm.
And I don't want to villainize the companies that are in that situation, especially if they don't even have an HR department or have an HR department of one and they're supposed to do, literally everything. And I know we'll talk about this later. So in a lot of cases, that is the case, or people don't know where to go, what are the right resources, what's the approach to do. And in some cases, it's paralysis by analysis. There's too many options. And then you're like, oh, if I don't move, maybe no one will see me. And that gets a bit tough. But let's say that's not the case. And let's say that an organization has the capacity, I know that's relative, or has the resources to do this. Yes, it's wonderful, and you should offer mental health benefits, employee assistance program, former EAP counselor right here. Those benefits are great. What about all the hours in between? Going to therapy, going to the doctor, going to a psychiatrist, calling the EAP. And so the companies that are getting it right are bringing up mental health as and when it needs to be brought up, as opposed to just in May or World Mental Health Day in October. And so it's doing it when it needs to be done, not when the market is telling you to be seen that you're doing it. There is a difference. So there are things that happen all the time, every month, that just jack up people's mental health. And there are some organizations that take a no comment policy, which I have very personal feelings about. But if you're not acknowledging the systems in which we live and how they are impacting our mental health in a variety of ways, different communities, things like that, it's very much checkbox. And I know that there is a slippery slope, and it can feel a little, to some organizations, more high risk of like, well, if we acknowledge this and don't acknowledge this, and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's why I tend to have a framework of no community is different from any other community. And as things come up, there's always someone who's impacted. So why not have the conversations occur as and when they need to on a rolling basis, in addition to having, mental health training for managers, having town halls, having fireside interviews, having, a strategic workplace mental health roadmap that is evergreen, instead of just once a year going, mental health is important. See, look, we said it. Call the EAP. Bye. So
Yeah.
that's the difference.
And being able to keep those resources top of mind. Like, I
It's
even think,
tough.
like, it is really tough, especially
Yeah.
with all the other comms you have going on with your employees. And
Well, that's why I position myself as someone to help with the in between. So because you have all these robust benefits, but people are still not having the conversation, it's because the narrative hasn't been changed and people haven't been upskilled. So I'm very much to fill the in between as like a supplement. And that's the way I tend to position it for people. And it doesn't have to be mental health 365, 24/7. I love my job. I don't even want to talk about it that much. But it's about just keeping it like gently top of mind, concurrently with other things.
I love that. I also share a little bit, like, tooting culture amps horn a bit, is that, like, yes, we have offered a meditation app, and like some organizations may call that like a checkbox thing, but it's like we also have
No, it
resources to
helps.
help.
It
Yeah.
helps. It
We
helps.
have
It's a
resources.
supplement.
Yeah, it's a supplement. We
Yeah,
obviously have the AAP program. We have access to go and meet with a therapist through Modern Health.
those are awesome.
Yeah, and then, like, we just recently actually had an employee pass, and that has been an incredibly challenging thing for many of our staff, like many of our staff members who like work with that person.
Hmm.
And they even linked out like a Confluence page of like, here's how to support each other, whether you're a people leader or not. Like, here's
Yeah,
how to do it. Here's
yeah,
things to say, here's things not to say. Even just like
yeah.
resources and guides like that are incredibly valuable.
Well, that's why and the thing is that we're saying the same thing. It's that it's a multidisciplinary approach where you
Yeah.
have the benefits, you have the conversations, you have the training. It all creates the full package, as it were. And that's one of the reasons I wrote the book, is I was like, why no one's actually teaching anybody how to actually have the conversation.
Yeah.
So I just was like compelled, because people just needed a playbook. Like, even if
Yeah.
you couldn't afford resources in a company, at least someone could read that, you know?
Well, I guess, why do you think that there are still barriers that are keeping people or preventing people from having these kinds of conversations at work?
How much time you got? How much time you got? I'll give you the highlight reel. I tend to look at it as inside of work factors and outside of work factors, kind of respectively. So going back to the DEIB piece, So when it comes to how we look at mental health, I realize I'm dating myself here. If there are any 80s babies or before on this call, please type
For
into the
sure.
chat. Don't leave me out here alone. Not that it's anything to be ashamed of. I'm an elder millennial and I love it. So, yes, 89 does count. So, do y'all remember those silver cassette recorders that had the clear window and you had the little like record buttons and blah blah blah, and you would hold it up to the stereo to make a mixtape? Kids these days have no idea how determined we were to make a mixtape because of streaming, and they never know what we went through. But all that to say, we are the tape recorders. We are, and it doesn't matter how many times you rerun over that tape, there's always like a residue. And so when it comes to mental health, regardless of, inside of work or outside, our family upbringing, our culture of origin, our ethnicity, our country of origin, if the religion we follow, our gender identity, our sexual orientation, all these things provide conditioning and messaging about, do we acknowledge that this is a thing? Because plenty of people and cultures don't. Do we talk about this? How do we talk about it? Who do we talk to about it to? And so these are things that can be unintentional barriers to these conversations, because if someone doesn't feel it's permissible to talk about it outside of work, what would make people think that they would feel comfortable to talk about it in an environment with potential consequences if it goes wrong? I'm not going to sit here and say that every company gets it right. There are plenty of companies or leaders that totally shit the bed with these sorry for the adult language, we're all chronologically aged adults here. And I hear plenty of situations where it just goes horribly wrong, or people are retaliated against. These things still happen. It's becoming increasingly illegal, and it's happening less and less, but it still happens. So it feels very high risk to bring that up in an environment where, historically speaking, we have been told with every fiber of our being, you don't talk about this because this is a transactional relationship. You're being hired to do this for this result, for compensation. And so, do you want to say something before I go on?
Oh, I mean, yes, and like there's still almost a myth that like you check your emotions at the door. Like as if that's possible.
You know, it's funny. Last time I checked, it's one brain and one body doing it all. I just like boop, 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 boop. So when you think about the inside of work factors, there are endless ones, but I'd say that the kind of top three, in no particular order, is people say the darndest things about mental health in the workplace. They co-opt mental health language, mental illness language. They say judgmental, silly things when they don't understand someone's behavior, don't like someone's behavior. If someone has mental health struggles in general or a diagnosed mental health condition, and they hear people saying stupid stuff, what would make them think that they can talk about it? There are countless people who will use diagnostic terms completely inappropriately. I have PTSD from that meeting. Oh, I'm so OCD about this. This project is so tough, I want to kill myself. Ah, oh my God, just so inappropriate. But you wouldn't hear someone saying, "Oh, my stomach hurts like I have Crohn's disease." Who's gonna say that? No one's gonna say that. I can say with a pretty high level of certainty. So when you hear people say things like that, you're not as likely to feel comfortable to bring it up. Or, for
Mm.
example, leadership stoicism. Let's say that you work for an organization where the leaders are always fine. By the way, small side, do you know what FINE stands for as an acronym?
Tell us.
You ready? Your mind's going to be blown. I learned this last year and I was horrified I hadn't learned it before. Feelings inside not expressed.
Wow, that's so
I
good.
know. I was like, oh, I'm ashamed. I didn't know that till now. And so
Wow.
if leaders are always fine, even if it seems like the proverbial house is burning around them, what would make their teams think it's okay to bring things up? It doesn't matter how much of a rebel you are. People tend to look to their leaders for spoken rules, unspoken rules, what we can talk about, not talk about. And if they don't seem approachable, to talk about mental health because they never talk about their own stuff. Usually leaders, when they role model their own struggles, usually can sometimes inspire other people to do it too. And the last thing I want to mention is something I call well-being shaming. This one's a doozy. Even after the pandemic, this stuff still happens, and I see it happen, and it makes my insides hurt. So, Jessie, let me use you as an example. Throughout your entire career, did you ever witness comments directed at you or not, where let's say you go for a run at lunchtime, or you sign off 4 o'clock on a Friday, or you do a doctor's appointment and then you shift your day, and you hear comments like, oh, must be nice to have that flexibility in your schedule. I wish I did. Or I wish I had the courage to sign off at 4 o'clock on a Friday. I'm so jealous.
Oh, absolutely. I'm like crawling in my skin right now. Of
Uh-huh.
course I have.
Uh-huh. So I dubbed that well-being shaming because people are either towing the company line, or they're actually jealous and don't have the courage to do it, or they're just being a butthead and think that you shouldn't. So people are shaming other people for doing things to maintain work-life integration
Yeah.
and to take care of themselves. It is the dumbest shit ever.
It's almost like you're only allowed to do those things if you've worked incredibly hard or something, whatever that person is deemed objectively as traumatic that's happened to you. Like those are the only two cases when they're like, oh, well then yeah, you should do that.
Well, especially these days, the old adage is going the extra mile. These days, it's going the extra marathon. And now I'm not saying to that work-life integration means that you're really screwing up on your job and leaving people in a lurch. I'm clearly not encouraging that. But if you are doing really well at your job and you want to have some sort of semblance of work-life integration, that is a healthy, mature, responsible adult thing to do to maintain your well-being so you can function and work. What a novel idea. So when I hear stuff
Well,
like that, oh, go ahead.
no, please, finish your thought. I'm sorry.
I'm more direct than most. So everybody take this with a grain of salt. Okay. I remember there was one time where someone said something to me before I went out on my own. And they said something silly like that. And I think I said something to the effect of, well, I'm doing this to take care of myself. And I think that's a healthy thing to do. And I'm struggling to understand why you don't agree. Can you explain to me? Silent. Because I wasn't rude. And I said, this is what I'm doing. Here's why. And I invited a conversation. And they were like, So I'm a little more direct than most. And I realized that, relationship with the manager, relationship with colleagues, the company culture, those comments don't exist in a vacuum. So look at the environment around you and see if it's something that is appropriate, how you need to say it, who you can say it to, but also making sure not to use work-life integration as a cover for not doing what you're supposed to do.
Mm, I love that. A very simple, I appreciated that you flipped that around as a question back to them. Rather than
Yeah.
just like, well, I'm taking this walk for my mental health. It's like, hey, I'm doing this because of X, Y, and Z.
Hmm.
And also tell me why, like inviting the conversation. I think that's powerful.
Yeah, usually people won't have a good answer. So that's kind of the purpose of that. Although they might have they're like, oh, why did I say that? And then it creates this teachable moment where they didn't actually mean any harm. And it was just a jestful, joke. And they were on autopilot. And then they're like, oh God, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I witnessed it on an event the other day where I was talking about this, and one of the interviewers in real time in front of 100 people at the company said, I did that to the other interviewer the other day. I'm really sorry. That was wrong. And I was like, oh. So I was
Mhm.
really proud of them for doing that.
I love this. Okay, I have one more question that I want to make sure I ask before I want to have time for community members to chime
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
hear a perspective. But I listening to some of the other interviews you've done, in your work, you've talked about HR is expected to be everything to everybody. And this, which is so real. It's like, figure out it's absurd. It's highly unrealistic. But anyway,
Influence the space-time continuum, Jessie. Why
yeah,
can't you?
no shit.
Why can't you?
So many people in our community have an HR practitioner role. And
Yeah.
so tell us why this is not the case when it comes to mental health at work, and why focusing on sustainability for mental health at work isn't not only good for their roles, but for the
Yeah.
entire organization to own this.
So I love talking about this topic, and I speak to a lot of HR communities, and they really are expected to be the sun and the moon and the stars for everybody, do their 1,200 tasks, and be a mental health expert. No big deal. And also dehumanize themselves in the process and not join the conversation because they're too busy facilitating it. So there's actually a lot of correlations. Oh, that's a story for another day. Like there's a lot of correlations actually between clinical mental health folks and people who work in HR when it comes to compassion fatigue, vicarious trauma, those sorts of things. And it's just not talked about because HR can be a thankless job. And so I think it's really important, the first thing to say that, HR for folks, again, really depends on the organization and the culture you have, joining that conversation to humanize themselves beyond their job titles instead of only facilitating it for the rest of the company. And the
Mm,
other thing is that if you want to have sustainability and enablement in mind, it's helping people understand. That's why that re-education and training piece is so important, that not every single mental health conversation has to go to HR. Not at all. It's about teaching people there are certain conversations that are meant for certain audiences, and that if you want the boat to stay afloat, everybody's got to get in and row it. It's like village level effort, and good leadership when it comes to enabling mental health conversations can come from anywhere. And it's not just this top down only thing. Yes, you have to have visibility and influence from the top. You have to have leadership buy-in, HR buy-in, but also every person in the organization has a responsibility to develop this skill set to some degree, because usually speaking, everybody in their life will have some moment in their existence where they need support or they need to lend support. So it's about the messaging from senior leadership from HR that really to task the organization with the importance and the accountability to develop this conversational literacy. That's what it comes down to. And so there has to be this alignment from, HR senior leadership about what does that look like? How are we going to address this as an organization through organizational conversations, leadership training, individual contributor training? What are examples of the types of conversations that are useful to have with HR or to have with a leader or between colleagues? What are the differences between talking about general mental health versus a mental illness disclosure, which is protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act? It's
mhm.
basically helping people understand the ripple effects and necessity of the education going throughout the whole organization to not create this bottleneck to HR, which typically is what happens because people think that asking someone how they're doing is the same thing as being like, "Do you have major depressive disorder?" Don't do that. Super illegal. But asking someone just generally how they're feeling is not illegal. It may
Yeah,
seem like overstepping, which can like where does that feeling come from? There's a lot of things around that. But teaching people the gradient that is required for this topic.
I love it so much. I was just thinking about like some things that are also coming up to me around like compassion fatigue is so
Oh
real.
yeah.
Like
Oh
the
yeah.
the superhero facade that many folks in the people and culture industry have. It's like, oh, everything's great. I'm taking care of all these other people. Don't worry about me. It's like and something else you mentioned in another interview that I saw was around like, how do we make sure everyone's informed on how to triage? Like, what's actually like, where do
Oh
things
yeah.
go next? And like,
It's all part of
there's
the education and the training.
yeah.
Yeah, and the triaging I think is a really good term because yes, that's used in the clinical world, but the behavior is the same. Where
Yeah.
if you have a conversation with someone who's not the right person to have it with, they can't help you. And so let's say that you actually need accommodation, talking to HR is the right thing to do versus talking to a colleague. Or
Yeah.
let's say that you are acting differently at work because you have some stress at home. Talking to your colleagues and talking to your boss so they understand what's going on instead of assuming what's going on, that can just stay with them. It doesn't need to go to HR. So it's about helping people understand receiving information, figuring out who's the best person to handle it so
Yeah.
that person can get the help that they need. That's why it's called support network, not support standalone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to open this up to community members to ask some questions. I'm like, this is helpful for me of like, I'm feeling inspired of like, because I'm thinking a lot, I think a lot about like, how do we support our friends with that are grieving? Because that's very top of mind for me right now. But like
Um,
through the same lens of like, how do we support each other with like being not just like being trauma informed and also mental health informed of like, how do you have these
yeah.
conversations and then how do you point people in the right direction?
Yeah.
This belongs to everyone, not just HR and the development required for that. That's what's really coming up for me. So thank you.
Yeah.
And also one other thing, just is the idea of like, how do we incorporate this into everything we do? Even like we had an offsite a year and a half back, and all of our exec team and many of our VPs sat on a panel and talked about, we had a conversation about mental health disability, visible and invisible,
Yeah.
and some of our senior leaders being neurodivergent and how that implement and how that influences the way that they show up at work.
That's
And
right.
it's like hearing senior leaders and executives that are at Culture Amp talking about their experience with that, I was like, whoa, like this is
Yes.
mental health awareness. This is an offsite. Like this is like it's woven into everything that we're doing and how important this is. But yeah, it's just
They
like
are
one tiny thing that that organizations can do
they're
that has a
human
huge,
beings behind the job titles. Really.
yeah.
Uh and I also saw that we had a bunch of questions that are in the chat if we want to address those.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
Um
well, did we answer Hannah's around whose role would it be to keep the conversation initiatives flowing within an organization?
everyone. The answer is everyone. So it does have to start from HR and senior leadership. But whenever I do events with companies, I insist that opening sponsors, internal opening sponsors, closing sponsors, if we do a fireside interview, interviewers cannot be from HR because they are the victims of message deafness, where people hear the same thing over and over from them and they go, wait, what? When did you say this? And so when it's people from the business units, people are more likely to pay attention because people are not expecting those disclosures from those people. And so it's really about helping folks understand that this is a village level effort and that good leadership can come from anywhere. It's about not only empowering people, but reminding folks of the accountability that culture is co created. But it does need to start with HR and senior leadership. Um, I do see a direct message, so I'll make this anonymous for this person. Um, what would you suggest as leaders having to be the best example of behavior slash leadership? Therefore, they have to be great at, they have to, sorry, one second, great at suppressing their own mental health. How do they cope? I will say I've always worked at companies who see mental health as a big weakness, especially in upper management. Doesn't shock me, unfortunately. Secondly, tips for managing traumatized team of associates, thinking 9/11 at the World Trade Center bombing. I managed a sales team from the two tragic events. That's so challenging. I'm so sorry that happened. So let me take a look at both of these. So that was actually one of the reasons I was psyched to do that navigating the mental toll and stress of leadership course with LinkedIn is my contact there basically said, the narrative with mental health and leadership, burn it all down. And I was like, I understand the assignment. So, basically, there needs to be a serious restructuring of the mental health narrative within leadership. There has to be this humanizing of leaders because, again, just like HR, they're expected to say this is important and to be, supportive to other people, but not join that conversation because it means they're a bad leader, they're weak, blah, 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 all these BS myths that are not true. But then it screws leaders because they can't show that they can struggle and be a good leader at the same time. A lot of people who do their jobs struggle and do the job at the same time. Being a leader, it should be treated no differently. And let me give you a great example. My husband's company, their CEO has bipolar 2. He is super, super open about it, not just internally at the company, but on LinkedIn and all these places. And all these leaders are coming forward basically saying, we need to stop pretending like these issues don't exist." And so it's, how do I say this? It doesn't matter that mental health has been historically misunderstood, especially for leaders. We know better now. We do. And so I think it's about just being very brass tacks about that. And I'm so conscious of time. There's so much more I could say, but to this person, please add me on LinkedIn. I can answer some other questions for you. The other thing is tips for managing traumatized folks. There is a amazing service through an employee assistance program called a critical incident stress debriefing. Critical incident stress debriefing. Typically speaking, EAPs will offer the service, but different types of packages may include it or not include it, where they will deploy licensed clinicians, whether it's on site or virtually, to speak to a traumatized group of people to do trauma-based work with them after a traumatic event. So I highly recommend looking into that. Let's see, another one we have here. In your work, how receptive are senior leaders to changing the culture around mental health within organizations? It is totally company dependent, and in some cases, it's leader dependent, where you'll have some leaders who are into it, some leaders who are not. I'll be very honest with you. I don't think we'll ever be in a place, not in our lifetime, where every industry, every company, every leader is receptive to it. The goal, I feel, is to make it so commonly accepted, so commonly understood, that the folks that resist are the outlier. That's the goal. And that's how change typically works. And so I would say the receptivity it completely depends on the organization and the leader as well. But let's say you have some leaders who are resistant, instead of saying like, why are you being an obstacle? Blah, 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 there is always a reason why people are resistant. So I tend to lead with curiosity and try to understand, where does the resistance come from? It could be personal. It could be that they tried to be supportive in the past and it blew up in their face. It could be they think mental health is BS. But I think that's an opportunity to invite a conversation to determine why, because it could be an obstacle or hurdle that could be, gotten over. I see another direct message here, so I'll keep this anonymous. Hack days coming up for all teams in my company. I'm inspired to take the topic of mental health at work. Could you help me with the starting point in this direction? Like, what is the most important that needs attention first? I would love to help. Please contact me at my website, melissadoman.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'd be very happy to help you. Let's see here. I do see here something that is more legally related from YM. So I'm not an employment attorney, so I can't comment on that. It says, what if someone is struggling to do their job because of mental health, let's say 10 to 30% of the time, but 80% of the time they're amazing? Can a company lay them off without repercussions? There are 18 answers to that based on the situation. So I can't comment on that, and I would encourage you to speak to an employment attorney. What else? How can I ensure that our mental health initiatives don't seem performative? I love this question. I can do things throughout the year, but I struggle to keep things fresh at our company. That is a wonderful question. I think that you shouldn't be alone in having to champion this. I really don't. So I think it's about finding, it takes a chorus of voices sort of thing. So I think it's about finding other people who give a shit about the cause and who can support you in this work, and really think about, if we're going to talk about this more than once a year, why are we doing it? Why are we doing it? What are the outcomes we're going for? What does good look like if we create change? So I would really start with those strategic priorities, and think about what is it you want to accomplish and who can you enlist to help you with this, because you can't do it by yourself. Same steer to you. I do strategic assessment and advising. So if you would like a thought partner to help with this, and you have the budget for it, please add me on LinkedIn, message me on my website, and I would be more than happy to help you. But do not do this alone. It's not just up to you, and people need to help row the boat for sure. I'm conscious we have 4 minutes left,
Yeah.
Jesse.
Okay. Just like, just what's your hot take? My last question for you.
A
What's
hot
your hot
take.
take on psychedelics for mental health at work? Just hot take.
Well, as here's the thing. As someone who is not a physician and is no longer in clinical practice, but as someone who stepping out of these things, commenting from a personal perspective, personal only, and also someone who lives in Colorado, just take that as what you will. Uh, the research behind psychedelic medicine for treating mood disorders, for treating um, learning disabilities is unbelievable. It's unbelievable how much it's helping people with those things. Now, I think that the benefits are occurring faster than the laws can catch up. So, from a personal perspective, I think that, the psychedelic microdosing movement, as long as not psychoactive, so that's the difference between getting a buzz and a high versus when you take a sub-psychoactive dose that gives you the mood and concentration benefits without the high and the buzz. I know a lot of people who do that, and it changed their lives.
Yeah.
And substance abuse policies at companies have not caught up. Legislation has not caught up. And how organizations need to approach that topic, I have no effing idea, because it is just so difficult. But from a personal perspective, I see it changing people's lives, especially for folks who have like treatment resistant depression, or the different meds, for ADD don't work for them. I mean, it's a lifesaver for some people, but the laws need to catch up, and they're working on it. So yeah, I
Okay.
don't know if that was a good answer, but
No,
it
this
made
is
sense to
great.
me.
I love it. Thank you. We're gonna have a community conversation on psychedelics at work here in the next month or so. So I'm
Cool.
kind of curious. Okay, I'll send this out afterwards, but ways to stay connected with Mel, check out her book. Yes, you can talk about mental health at work, and here's how and how to do it really well. She has some LinkedIn learning courses, which I've dropped in the chat, but again, I'll send these as a follow-up research or in the follow-up email. Other ways to stay connected, check out our People Geek Slack community. We have a Culture First podcast and a newsletter as well. If you missed Culture First Global, which is Culture Amp's big pinnacle event series, all of our content is on demand right now. So Esther Perel and Megan Rapinoe and Ben Crow and the top 25 emerging culture creators, on running, Elf Beauty products, some of our NASCAR. We had some amazing sessions. So if you want to check that out, that's available to you. And lastly, Culture Amp just came out with a DEI report. I know we kind of started to talk a little bit about that, and we'll have a community conversation probably next month as well. So stay tuned for that. But here's the link to the report if you are wanting to check that out. All right, we are right at time. Can we all come off mute or give a reaction? Just give a little love to Melissa for thank you for
Aw.
being here. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. It was fun hearing you.
Aw,
You're
thanks
excellent.
Thanks
everybody.
so much. Mwah.
Thank
And
you.
Amazing. 9 to 5
Thank you so
again.
much.
She wants her 9 to 5
Thank
again.
you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Connect on LinkedIn, my website, anything I can do to help. Don't sweat it. Take care of yourselves and each other. Like, what was that? A Jerry Springer sign off?
So good. All right. Thank you all for being here. I would play 9 to 5, but I'm still recording and I don't want
No,
copyright.
you're good.
But thank you so much. Cheers to co-creating a better world of work. And let's keep the convo going either in Slack or on LinkedIn. But make sure to tag Melissa and myself so we can keep the momentum going. But all right, everyone, have a great rest of the day. Talk to you later.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.